Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Invade another country with no exit plan. Drill, drill, drill for the oil reserves. Pump up the dollar with the blood of an enemy. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's have another Iraq, Guatemala, or Nam. Manufacture a reason it's for freedom we kill. But we only fight for freedom when there's gold in the hills. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Whose little boys are gonna die for your 401k and my Roth IRA and for gas at $2.25? Let's do it again. Let's do it again. 'Cause it worked so well last time. Hey, let's do it again.
And we are off. It is Monday. It is January 2026. I am Pete Dominic here every day with you, bringing you the very best guest experts I can find, hosting great, informative, thought-provoking, funny, at times, conversations unlike anything you'll find anywhere else. At the top there, always trying to find the laughs, that was a creator, an Instagrammer, a musician, a singer-songwriter named Philip Labes. I'd never heard of him until longtime listener Justin Harden sent that to me. Reminds me of our own Gareth Sever. He's not nearly as talented as Gareth, but I thought that was funny, and I thought it would be a good way to start. Today on the show, I have got my conversations with Bill Boyle and Canada's Dean Blundell, two very different conversations. Bill and I discuss all things Venezuela, and then Dean and I talk about a wide range of issues, including why Stoicism is the antithesis of MAGA. Both great conversations. I really enjoyed both of them. Love these guys, and I hope you like them. My conversation with Boyle begins at about 29 minutes in, and if you want to skip ahead to Canada's Dean Blundell, that one starts at about an hour 105 in. But first, I've got a clip show of sorts, all related to the news that we all learned over the weekend of the invasion and snatch and grab and kidnapping or foreign leader grabbing. I don't know what you want to call it. Was it a police action? Was it an invitation or the beginning of a war? It's being depicted as all kinds of different things, and I'll get all into it right now with you. But I just want you to know I can't do any of it without you. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic, here every day on Substack and YouTube. You can watch my interviews live. There should be a couple of them today. I'm trying to get together with Michael Ian Black this afternoon, so look for that. Also, I should have a Venezuela expert from NYU joining me, and those should be coming up. Great reasons to subscribe, as well as just being a member of our community. Shout out to our boy, piano tuner Paul. Paul in North Carolina had major surgery on Friday, and he is in recovery, and I'm sure he's listening, and I wanted to give him a shout out and thank him for being a part of our community, and thank everybody who has been so supportive of Paul and his partner Susan through all of this journey he has had with esophageal cancer. You can learn more about it because he's writing about it at his Substack, which is linked in the show notes, The Epistles of Paul. Go subscribe and listen to him daily on Station Head, where he DJs music. He's a great music guy, and we love him and thinking of him. All right, let's get to the shit show, which is just a fat clip show today because I did not gather headlines because everything is about Venezuela today, and I've got like 20 clips for you. It's probably way too much. And if you want to skip ahead to the interviews, you can, but there's so much to say and so many people have said it, so I grabbed a whole bunch of them, and I don't even know where to start. Let's begin with Senator Chris Murphy. He's always good, and he was on CNN yesterday.
Reaction to this operation?
Well, I mean, clearly this is wildly illegal. This is a president who has been operating illegally since he was sworn into office, stealing from the American people, seizing spending power.
What's illegal?
Now dragging America into a war overseas. The president cannot run a military operation of this size, cannot invade a foreign country without coming to Congress first, without allowing the American public to weigh in. America doesn't want this war. Nobody asked for this because it has nothing to do with American national security. And I think that's the most important conversation to have. Listen, Venezuela is not a security threat to the United States. They're not threatening to invade us. There is no terrorist group like Al-Qaeda operating there that has plans to attack the United States. To the extent that you care about the drug trade, yes, they produce drugs, but those drugs go to Europe. Fentanyl is the drug that's killing Americans. That's not coming from Venezuela. Venezuela produces cocaine. 90% of it is not coming to the United States. This seems to be mostly about oil and natural resources. Donald Trump's entire foreign policy is corrupt. Russia, the Middle East, and now Venezuela is all about making money for his friends. And Wall Street, the oil industry, they can make a lot of money off of Venezuela if they run it. You saw within hours of the invasion the announcement of a group of Wall Street investors, energy industry investors, planning a trip to Venezuela to make money off of this invasion, off of this ouster. So, unfortunately, once again, you're seeing that this president's foreign policy, the invasion of Venezuela, the ouster of Maduro, is about making his crowd filthy rich. It has nothing to do with American national security.
Nothing to do with American national security, says the senator from Connecticut. Now on to the next clip. I thought this was a good one from Ann Applebaum and David Frum on the Atlantic's YouTube channel yesterday, analyzing what could be the calculus here for the Trump regime.
There does seem to be a whiff of a deal that Donald Trump has in mind with the Russians, and maybe the Chinese too, to say, you know how the United States historically rejected spheres of influence? We're rethinking that. Russia, you can have Ukraine, and I will help you get it. And I will backstab Europeans who try to support Ukraine and resist you. Meanwhile, China, I'm not going to meaningfully resist your operations in your own neighborhood. I'm not even that serious about protecting Taiwan. In return, I want your okay to overthrow your client in Venezuela. We will be the empire of the Western Hemisphere. You guys take your sections, and we will each be masters of our own domain without regard for concepts like democracy or self-determination or meaningful alliances or mutual respect of nations.
So that idea that the world is going to be split into three spheres of influence has been kicking around for a while. And of course, it's terribly dangerous. It's dangerous for the United States because of the kind of backlash that it may create in Latin America and Europe and elsewhere. It's dangerous for America's trading partners and allies around the world. It's incredibly dangerous for Europe. And of course, it's very dangerous to America's allies in Asia, Taiwan, Japan, South Korea. And it really creates the prospect for a reordered world, one in which violence becomes much more common and the use of military power by big countries against smaller ones becomes normalized. And that, of course, will have economic effects and will eventually be felt by all Americans.
All right. Ann Applebaum and David Frum speculating on the calculus. Now let's get to Senator Ruben Gallego. He was on one of the Sunday shows yesterday Senator from Arizona. Here's what he had to say.
What are your expectations when you get briefings from senior Trump administration officials in the coming days?
Well, they're just going to lie. Let's be clear. We actually had briefings before this, and it was, in those briefings, Secretary Rubio and Secretary Hexeth both said that this is not a precursor to us doing regime change. No, everything you're seeing from you is not an opportunity to build towards war versus Venezuela. I said it was actually that, and lo and behold, this is what happened. Next, they're going to say most likely that, no, we're not going to try to occupy Venezuela, when the American people have been very clear. They do not want to be occupiers again. We do not want to be the world police. It is not the intent of the American public, again, to be another forever war. It's time for us to understand where our place is in the world, and it's not for us to be the world police.
All right. Well, maybe we want to be the world police. The world police. That's at least maybe in the Southern Hemisphere, our hemisphere, the Western Hemisphere. Let's check in with the president of the Council on Foreign Relations, Richard Haass, who sat down with his friend Katie Couric yesterday. He used to hang out with these guys at the Aspen Ideas Fest. It was a real muckety-muck.
Listen to the president's press conference today from Mar-a-Lago. Shall we say he didn't hide it? This was all about the oil and all about access to the oil. So you asked questions about, was this necessary? I would say no. This is, again, was something of choice. And I think the two, will get to it. I think there's two enormous risks here. One is, it's one thing to oust or arrest a thug, and that's what Maduro was. I mean, criticism of what we did should not be understood in any way as support for Maduro. This guy was a thug. He was repressive. He ignored electoral results. He was in the drug business. So no redeeming virtues. No one will mourn, or very few will mourn his leaving. But the question of how we manage events in Venezuela going forward, we should talk about it, because the history of regime change, shall we say, or ouster, is awfully, awfully complicated. It's not one that fills you with great optimism. Let me just put it that way. And then second of all, this doesn't happen in isolation. This is a square on the chessboard, but everybody else looking at the board, everybody else on the board says, what sort of precedent does this set? If the United States can do it in its backyard, what about our doing it? So I would think that people in the Kremlin, like Vladimir Putin, people in Beijing, like Xi Jinping, while they're not thrilled about potentially losing a partner in Venezuela, I bet are pretty happy with what happened, because this sets an extraordinarily useful precedent for them. If they want to go in and declare one of their neighbors, be it in Ukraine or Taiwan, as illegitimate, and take action. So we're moving towards a world where great powers act with extraordinary impunity in their backyard.
All right. There you go. That's the president of the Council on Foreign Relations, Richard Haass. Let's go to another senator from, this is Maryland, Chris Van Hollen. He was on Sunday show yesterday.
So when Senate comes back to Washington, you are forcing a vote that would block further military action without congressional approval. But is now really the time to handcuff the administration from taking any military action when there's a power vacuum that was created by Maduro's refusal to surrender?
Jackie, it's never the wrong time to enforce the Constitution. The Constitution says the United States shouldn't be at war without a vote of Congress. This president has waged military action against Iran, Nigeria, boats in open waters, and now Venezuela. And so, yes, I'm going to insist that my colleagues vote on whether we should be at war with Venezuela just on a presidential say-so. It was interesting. You asked my colleague, Senator Schmidt, should Congress affirm this action? And he chose not to answer your question because I think he knows what the law is. He referred to the administration's 40-page legal rationale. That's a legal rationale concerning strikes in international waters that specifically says it does not apply to provide a legal rationale for a strike against a sovereign nation like Venezuela. Maduro was a bad guy, but the U.S. shouldn't be at war in Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, Mexico, Nigeria, or anywhere else if Congress doesn't have the guts to debate it and vote on it so that service members who are risking their lives, and there were 2 injuries here, know that they're doing that mission with the support of the nation's political leadership, determining that the mission is in the national interest.
All right, we need a quick comedy break. Very funny. Comedian Jamie Kaler went viral when he went outside of his house on the street and talked about taking over his neighbor's house in an analogous move to what America just did to our neighbors.
Running late-night operation, I had some friends of mine execute a raid on my neighbor Tom's house. He put up quite a fight, but we got through, and he's in custody. I haven't liked what he's been doing over there for a while now, so I've decided to run his house myself. He leaves his Christmas lights up too long. He never trims his avocado tree that hangs over my fence, and I believe he's running fentanyl out of there. I can't prove the last one, but it makes sense. I've seen him speak Spanish. I got rid of the wife as well. I didn't really have a problem with her, but we did do a 4th of July block party, and she brought empanadas, so better safe than sorry. I've got them at a Residence Inn a couple towns over. I've been using his home as my own little man cave. Pretty great. It turns out he has a fantastic wine cellar that I have tapped into extensively. Anyway, I'll be running his home until a time when I can have a safe, proper, and judicious turnover to some other guy, which probably won't be happening soon. And just a heads up, I plan to take over some other neighbors' homes as well. Phil, across the street, has a pretty cool car I'd like to be in charge of. And Alex, who lives catty corner from me, has a wife who's a yoga instructor. Be taking that one soon. Again, doing it for the good of the neighborhood, so stay tuned.
Very funny. Love that. So a lot of people sharing that yesterday. A little comedy break. Now let's get back to more serious analysis. It's Graham Plattner on the campaign trail in Maine, where he's running for Senate.
This is not foreign policy. This is gangsterism on an international scale. We must not be fooled by the childish lies being used to justify this illegal aggression. Be wary of the establishment voices in media and in politics who over the next few weeks will work tirelessly to manufacture consent, even when they sound like they are opposed. Keep an ear out, for this operation is bad, but, followed by words about democracy, dictatorship, and international law. If those were justifications for invasion and abduction, we'd have invaded many of our allies a long time ago. Those voices are doing the work of empire, and we must be vigilant for their duplicitousness. If they are media figures, change the channel. If they are political figures, work tirelessly to remove them from power.
Graham Plattner on the trail. Foreign poly. The hell says foreign poly? Otherwise, I liked it. Here is a radio star and one of the smartest people around. It's Thom Hartmann, who we love, with a very scary predictions and analysis. And so I thought I would share it.
Is that Trump will do what Hitler did or what dictators typically do in a big way. What Reagan did in a small way, Reagan and Bush, all three of them, which is have a war. When you get in trouble, have a war. When the Marines were killed at the Beirut bombing, what did Reagan do? He pulled the Marines out of Beirut, he cut and run, and then he invaded Grenada. Let's have a little war. Maggie Thatcher taught him that lesson with the Falklands when she got in trouble with the miners' union. And then
we're certainly poking Venezuela right now.
Well, it's looking like Venezuela, but also Trump just cut off Mark Rudd from, the head of NATO came over here back in July and cut a deal with Trump. Trump was not willing to sell weaponry directly to Ukraine. Apparently that was part of his kissing Putin's ass. I don't know what Putin has on him, but Putin clearly owns him. And so he said, I'm not going to sell him to Ukraine, but I'll sell him to you, and you can give your weapons to Ukraine. And so that was the deal. And NATO's been doing that. The NATO nations have pretty much depleted their stockpile of Patriot missiles, the anti-missile defense systems that they could use to defend themselves against Russian aggression. And it's all in Ukraine now and being used up very, very rapidly, by the way. And so now Trump is saying, I can't sell these back to you. I can't sell them to you to replenish your stocks. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. And that, in my mind, sounds like he's setting up Europe to be attacked by Putin. So here's the scenario. Trump gets us into a war with Venezuela, which occupies us in our hemisphere, the Monroe Doctrine 2.0. Putin attacks the Baltic states, and now he's in a non-nuclear war with NATO. Xi looks at that and says, now's the time to act, and he takes Taiwan. And Trump has already basically said he won't stop him from doing that. And then Netanyahu says, okay, cool. And he starts bombing Iran. And basically, you've got the entire world in flames. You've got a world war. Right. Yeah. And now we're back to Strauss and Howe's fourth turning. A war, a depression and a war, followed by a progressive reboot. So, what saddens me about this, I think this is all likely, frankly, the scenario that I just laid out, this war scenario. And what saddens me about it is that, we could be making these transitions without war, and lots of people are going to die and be made miserable. I mean, look at what's going on in Gaza right now. Look at what's going on in Ukraine now. Look at what's going on in Venezuela right now, for that matter.
I don't know if anyone should say, I think this is what's likely, but that's what Thom Hartmann said. And Tom's a pretty smart guy, but I don't know if that's accurate. But let's listen to MAGA, because one of their leaders, Marjorie Taylor Greene, does she have a lot of influence anymore? She's resigning from Congress. Anyway, this is what she had to say yesterday about all of this. It's one point of view within the America First crowd.
Well, I served on the Homeland Security Committee for 3 years, and I am overwhelmingly in support of a strong border. I impeached Secretary Mayorkas. Those were my articles of impeachment that passed the House, because fentanyl overdoses skyrocketed to 280% in my own district. And the majority of American fentanyl overdoses and deaths come from Mexico. Those are the Mexican cartels that are killing Americans. And so my pushback here is if this was really about narco-terrorists and about protecting Americans from cartels and drugs being brought into America, the Trump administration would be attacking the Mexican cartels. Now, I am not defending Maduro, and of course I'm happy for the people of Venezuela to be liberated, but Americans celebrated the liberation of the Iraqi people after Saddam Hussein. They celebrated the liberation of the Libyan people after Gaddafi, and this is the same Washington playbook that we are so sick and tired of, that doesn't serve the American people, but actually serves the big corporations, the banks, and the oil executives. And so my pushback here is on the Trump administration that campaigned on Make America Great Again, that we thought was putting America first. I want to see domestic policy be the priority that helps Americans afford life after 4 disastrous years of the Biden administration. I want to see domestic policies that prioritizes jobs and affordable housing for Americans after 4 disastrous years of the Biden administration. And I want to see domestic priorities that put Americans first in regards of health care. Health insurance costs too much, car insurance, home insurance. And these are issues that matter to Americans. We don't consider Venezuela our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is right here in the 50 United States, not in the Southern Hemisphere.
All right. There you go. Marjorie Taylor Greene yesterday. I think that was Meet the Press. I don't know. Here is the minority leader and future probably Speaker of the House. It's Hakeem Jeffries and his reaction.
President Nicolas Maduro, you have called him a, quote, criminal and authoritarian dictator who has oppressed the people of Venezuela for years. Is Venezuela better off without Nicolas Maduro in power?
Well, he's a bad guy, of course, and he's going to stand trial in an American court of law at this particular point in time. It remains to be seen whether the people of Venezuela are going to be better off. Donald Trump claims that he's going to run Venezuela. He's done a terrible job running the United States of America. Life hasn't gotten better for the American people over the last year. Life has gotten worse. He promised to lower the high cost of living. Costs haven't gone down. They've gone up. The healthcare system is broken. Donald Trump refuses to do anything about it to address the Republican healthcare crisis. So the notion that he's going to run Venezuela and make life better for the Venezuelan people, of course, is belied by the facts as to what he's done as president here in the United States of America.
Democratic Congressman, it's Hakeem Jeffries there, and here's Daniel Goldman.
But Donald Trump in his address today revealed what I think is the reason, and it is oil. And it is that Donald Trump promised oil executives that if they gave him $1 billion for his campaign, that he would do right by them. And they gave about $500 million. And this is a massive gift that is in violation of international law and is essentially just co-opting an entire country's natural resources for the benefit of U.S. companies. When we have so many things that we need to deal with here at home, none of this affects grocery prices or health care or wages or prices of rent. None of this has anything to do with helping those issues which are central to the American people. We are now venturing. Donald Trump is taking us into another amorphous, shapeless and unknown uncharted territory now with taking over another country.
There you go, Daniel Goldman yesterday. And now here is Elie Velshi yesterday on MS Now had the great Mehdi Hassan on his excellent show on Velshi on MS Now. Here's a little bit of that.
He didn't mention democracy at all during his press conference. He mentioned oil 25
You're exactly right, Ali, and thanks for having me on. Happy New Year, though it feels weird as usual at the beginning of any year that Trump is in office. I would say that, those of us who are old enough, you and I, to remember the Iraq War in 2003, people like myself who claimed that Bush and Cheney went into Iraq for oil, we were dismissed as conspiracy theorists. They said it was no, WMDs, Al-Qaeda, democracy. Trump isn't doing that. People who claim this isn't about oil just need to listen to Donald Trump speaking, or Peter Hexter speaking. They're all being or Stephen Miller, they're all being very open about this, that it is about oil. Donald Trump has been obsessed with Venezuela's oil for a decade now, as I outlined in a piece for Zateo yesterday. Andy McCabe, who was the deputy director of the FBI, wrote a memoir in 2019 where he said Trump had said at the time in his first term, why aren't we invading Venezuela? They're the country with all the oil. So he's been obsessed with oil in Venezuela since his first term. He hasn't hidden it, as you pointed out, with all those references yesterday. It's actually outrageous. This is 19th century imperial plunder to say we're going to go into another country and we're going to steal all the oil, which is a phrase he used for Iraq. He also said that it will pay for itself. And again, sorry to bring up Iraq, but Ali, you remember George Bush.
No, but this is important because this was the big selling point for Iraq, that this whole thing will pay for itself. The oil that we get out of the ground in Iraq will pay for the military action and the stabilization of Iraq.
And Paul Wolfowitz said it, Donald Rumsfeld said it, George Bush said it, Dick Cheney said it. Actually, Iraq ended up costing the American taxpayer between $2 and $3 trillion. Experts on Venezuela say just rebuilding the oil industry there will cost between 50 and 60 billion. It's going to take several years. But Trump is claiming it's our oil, which is so outrageous, and every American should be outraged by that. By the way, you mentioned drugs. Let's just talk about drugs for a moment. He's being charged in New York for cocaine trafficking. No mention of fentanyl in the indictment, which we were told was the big reason to blow up boats in the Caribbean. It's cocaine now. And here's the problem for Donald Trump here, which is he just pardoned the former president of Honduras, who wasn't just indicted for cocaine trafficking. He was convicted in American court, sentenced to 45 years. In prison for 45 years, and Donald Trump just a few months ago pardoned the former president of Honduras, who trafficked 400 tons of cocaine into the U.S. So this idea that it's about cocaine is also absurd. And I would also point out, for those of you who haven't read the indictment, Nicolas Maduro is also being charged with machine gun possession, which I find hilarious from a Republican administration that is obsessed with allowing weapons of war on our streets. Apparently you can't have guns. You have to have guns in America, but a foreign leader has to abide by some 1934 American Firearms Act. Bizarre.
All right. There you go. Those are several clips, lots of clips, a big clip show. Was it too much? Too many clips? I wonder how that sounds when you hear them all together. I put them all together. I don't know what it sounds like. So I don't know. But finally, here is one of my favorite comedians. Used to be an intern at the Colbert Report when I was the warm-up comic, and I was his mentor. Now he's a monster. He's a big deal. Very, very funny. I love him. Here's Sam Morrill with a joke right out of the gates this weekend. Like the day after the invasion, he was on stage at the Comedy Cellar and he shared it. I thought it was great.
That shit with Maduro, that was pretty crazy, huh? You see, Pete Hegseth was like, fuck around and find out. It's like, yeah, you're the Secretary of Defense. How stupid are people? This is like a pretty big deal. Can you imagine if Truman, after nuking Japan, was like, fucking play stupid games, win stupid prizes, you know? Oh, you're sad? Cope. Hold this L, Nagasaki.
All right, there you go. Sam Morrill last night or over the weekend at the Comedy Cellar. And now that's it. Those are the clips. Now it's time to get to my guests. I got two great conversations with you right now. Coming up, a great one with Dean Blundell. You don't want to miss it. If you're done with Venezuela, maybe you should just jump to it because it's great and thoughtful and deep and funny, and I loved it, and I love Dean. But right now, I've got analysis on Venezuela from the great Bill Boyle, who's had a lot of time to think about it and hear about it and read about it and talk with his D.C. friends about it. Always love talking with Bill about foreign policy issues or history or any of it, geopolitics. Bill is, of course, a businessman in Washington, D.C. that used to call the radio show back in the day, and he's always so smart that, you know what, we made him a guest. He's a regular guest. We love his analysis here, and you can always follow him on Blue Sky, but he's not here for the clicks or the posts or the money or the following, all of it. He's fascinated with these issues. He's very articulate, passionate about all of it, and I always love talking to him. So here's my latest conversation with Bill B. Bill B in D.C., Bill Boyle. If you're down there in D.C., look him up, park in his garages, buy him a beer. You can watch this on YouTube or Substack. We caught up Sunday night. Here it is. Tonight, I wanted to wait until tonight to really have a conversation with anybody about everything that's gone on in the last 48 hours with Hitler's invasion and kidnapping of Maduro. I wanted to take in a whole bunch of information and read several articles and hear from all kinds of different point of views and try to gather as much information as I could before I got into a conversation. I had a quick hot take that I put out on social media, but Bill Boyle, I know, has been doing the same. I'm sure talking to a lot of people, reading a lot of people, and of course understanding history to a certain extent. not only in this region, but around the world. So happy Sunday night to you. Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely, brother. Happy Sunday.
Lots of thoughts. I feel like we need to either start with the history of the United States kind of invasions, imperialism, overthrowing of Latin American leadership and governments, or if not that, we need to start with this whole realignment that the Trump regime announced, their new security agreements, and basically what seems it is that everybody's saying Monroe Doctrine, the Don Doctrine corollary to it. There was a Roosevelt corollary to it. And this is about having influence in your literal sphere of the globe. So Russia can take what it wants in Europe. China can take what it wants in Asia. America can take what it wants in the rest of the planet or something. Where do you think is a good place to start?
Well, we can start with that idea, which is apparently in Alaska, Putin was telling Trump that he was willing to make a deal over Venezuela and Ukraine. What's so utterly bizarre about that idea is that before Trump, almost all of the major economies of the world, the most liberal, democratic, economically important countries in the world, other than China, were essentially vassal states of the United States. So, like, what Trump is doing is basically taking a world that the U.S. dominates and agreeing to carve it up. In other words, to give it away, to give away American hegemony over the world for regional powers, and making us a regional power when we don't need to be, when we have all the power in the world to dominate the globe for a long time to come. Instead, what he's saying is it's this very it's a very risk board sort of mentality. And that, I'll give you a good example. Colombia. President of Colombia yesterday said, this is all about the Epstein files. And the United States is trying to force this war on South America to keep attention away from the Epstein files and basically screw these guys and screw their strange wars, I think some way he put it in Spanish. Colombia 12 months ago or a year and a half ago was a tight American ally. Like, by going to this, doing what we're doing or attempting to do, we're basically giving up our power, we're turning our allies into enemies, and we're weakening ourselves for like a very bizarrely short-sighted and short horizon view of the world. Venezuela, for instance, and here's a great example. These guys look at the map and they see all the oil in Venezuela and they say, wow, we can get all this oil. And just like in Iraq, by the way, where Dick Cheney and Colin Powell and various others said we could pay for the war in Iraq with their oil. That never happened, and it's never going to happen in Venezuela.
Yeah, well,
2 minutes of research in Venezuela tells you that the oil is sour, which in a technical term for full of sulfur. It's the worst oil in the world, as a friend of mine who's in the gas and oil business told me. It's cheap-ish to extract, but it's also very expensive to refine. And with the price of oil in the world where it is, there's no reason to take that oil out of the ground. So it's just like, it's a classic thing of like these sort of weirdos pushing around counters on a map without realizing any of the actual important facts that make any decision like this make sense or not make sense.
Well, how much reporting and how much understanding do you have of the American oil industry, which are really multinational companies, influencing the Trump administration in doing this and having conversations and already setting up shop there?
So my understanding is that it's not the big oil companies doing this. It's various fringe hangers-on and opportunists going to the White House and saying, hey, we can make a lot of money from this Venezuelan oil. The big oil companies are very careful about investing where their billions of investment can be taken away tomorrow. It's why they're not in Venezuela now. By the way, we don't control Venezuela at all, which is a bizarre thing that the media seems to be just sliding over. There is still a Venezuela government run by Chavistas. The Rodriguez, the VP, is now running the country. She's quite hostile to the U.S. Her husband is the guy who runs like some of the militias. This guy, the Minister of Justice, Cabello, he has like hundreds of thousands of troops at his disposal. We don't have no boots on the ground. We don't control anything. And we went from, Trump saying we're going to run the country yesterday to Rubio this morning saying, well, If they don't do what we're going to do, we're just going to embargo all their oil. We're going to put ships around the country, not letting any of the oil leave.
Yeah.
This is making the Coalition Provisional Authority look like the Marshall Plan.
The coalitional, basically the Bush administration's organization named to set up after the invasion and occupation of Iraq, which of course went bad. A lot of people are referring to that. Marco Rubio today on, I think, Meet the Press or ABC basically said comparisons to Iraq and the Middle East are ridiculous because this is Latin America, this is Venezuela, this is not that.
Yeah, and American interventions in Latin America have a very, very long history of not working out at all well for anybody. They don't work out well. Panama is the one big exception. And that's because Panama already is like heavily inculcated with American culture. And the Bush administration, George Bush administration, and Clinton administration spent, another decade investing billions and propping the country back up, where there was no real feeling among Panamanians that they wanted to fight Americans. They were fine with us coming in. That is the one single intervention in Latin and South America that has not turned out to be complete dog shit. Everywhere else, and particularly what they're doing here, everywhere else where we picked a dictator and said, this is going to be our guy, which is what they're doing right now. Machado's stand-in, I think his name was Eduardo Rodriguez, he won in the last election in Venezuela. I think that Maduro got 30%.
Right, that was the big
Trump
deal.
administration was like, we don't want to deal with them. Like, they're explicitly locking out the democratic potential government of Venezuela. Why? Because democratic governments don't give away their resources.
Right.
This is mafia state behavior, and they want to deal with other mafia state people.
Right.
They don't want to deal with the inconvenience of having to deal with people who actually got elected to something.
And being a mafia state, or as your friend Graham Plattner is referring to them, international gangsters, that means that they behave that way that you have leverage on, in this case, your client, Venezuela. So it would seem that the administration, Rubio et al., are just trying to make sure that they get a puppet, someone that they can control.
Yeah, they want – well, again, this administration's weird because different people want different things.
That's true.
I mean, it's not – we're used to talking about administrations in terms of what's their plan and what's their policy. Yeah, Trump wants to throw his weight around. Vance, you notice, is nowhere to be seen anywhere on TV about this because Vance doesn't actually agree and he's hiding out. Rubio sees this as a way to put pressure on Cuba. And if he could somehow say he was the guy who liberated Cuba, it gives him a chance to run for president. You have all these other folks, Miller and whoever else, seeing like another CCOT potential location. You see all these business hangers-on who see ways they might be able to make money on it. This is just classic Trump administration, unthought-out aggression for the sort of it's the Trump stakes of Latin American foreign policy.
Yes, and it would seem that this could potentially only be the beginning. I've read a few Latin American experts, including John Lee Anderson at The New Yorker, saying what could be next. And he writes, whether or not the takeover by Trump of Venezuela will necessarily mean a subsequent attempt against communist Cuba. That's what he's thinking about. That's what a lot of people are thinking about. Marco Rubio said they should watch out, basically. All indications, he writes, are that it will. Both he and Rubio have hinted as much today. If Americans are able to effect regime change in Cuba, that would have immense symbolic power and truly would be the hope diamond in Trump's tiara. Cuba's own immediate value is symbolic. As the cradle of anti-Yankee activities in the hemisphere for the past 6.5 decades, its demolition would cement the specter of Trumpian power over the Americas. Unlike Venezuela, Cuba has no oil to speak of, but has a 700-mile-long Caribbean island with the potential for the construction of hundreds of new hotels, beach resorts, and golf courses. It's a real estate man's nirvana.
Yeah, and it's very much – most people don't realize that the reactionary impulse in America to a great degree comes from like our sort of history of slavery and the Confederacy and the rural agrarian interests like being against the mercantile sort of New England interests in the country. Well, those slaveholders in 1850, you know what they really wanted to do? They wanted to get Panama. They wanted to get northern Mexico. They wanted Cuba, because their solution to the problem of maintaining slave power in the United States was to add all these other blocks to the United States, and they would be states, quote unquote, dominated by a white overclass. When you read, as I have over years read these sorts of things about that period in American history, it sounds so similar. It's astonishingly similar. It's this idea that you could have this empire in the Caribbean where basically rich white men can make out like bandits and have an underclass that serves them. And it's precisely the same thing that's happening here. This is an old American dream by the most reactionary people in American society. Is it cotton fields and cane sugar now? No. It's hotels, as you say, and resorts and beaches, just like what they're trying to do with Gaza, right? Just like they talk about doing other places. This is the way they think. It's when you think about it, it's such a bizarre place for America to be. It's such a bizarre place for us to be, because 100 years of American history, the last 100 years, has been the opposite of that until now. It's always been at least a veneer, at least a really benign, hypocritical layer over what America did. And as you know, I agree, America's often done some terrible things. But the hypocrisy mattered, because the hypocrisy meant that you had to find a way to justify what you were doing, at least try to. And you had to find ways to mitigate what you did, because Americans wanted the hypocrisy to make themselves feel like they were not an empire, right? We're not Britain. We're not Russia. We're not, American history, if you go back, Truman, FDR, Wilson, they were very anti-imperial. All of them. Republicans were anti-empire. Lincoln was anti-empire. Trump is explicitly pro-empire. And except for, you have to go back to Southern slave owners to find somebody of that ilk in American history.
Not that it's a scholarly view or doctrine, but being anti-empire would certainly, or being pro-empire, as you're saying he is now, would seem to be at odds with America First. And there does seem to be a rift along those lines from Steve Bannon today and MGT and others that see this as an issue. And I think that's an important fracture to probably exploit and also talk about. But the imperial or colonial ambitions that this administration now seemingly has, part of it is just obviously enriching themselves, right? It's back to the mafia.
Well, that was always,
it's not
slave
like,
owners weren't slave owners because they definitely, someone woke up one day, said we want slaves. They were slave owners because it made them a lot of money.
But there's an ideology, there's a deeper ideology that goes with colonialist ambitions. Usually in history, it would seem this one seems to be, it's always about making money and expanding your empire but often expanding your ideology, or even, dare I say, spreading democracy or preventing it from being spread, whatever. The fight against communism or for capitalism, whatever you want to say. This seems to be literally small, like a few people making a few deals for their interests to a certain extent, the oil industry, but not necessarily. There's all kinds of different interests, and it would seem to be if you get to Mar-a-Lago and you get to the president, that doesn't matter who you are. You could get a pardon or a contract. Who knows? Yeah.
It's billionaire populism.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe it.
Yeah.
Right.
Auction.
It's this. Yeah. It's billionaire populism, which is different, frankly, than I think historically. I can't think of a single episode like this in any other country. We've gotten into some very weird byway of American culture, mixed with, of course, the internet and social media and everything else making this work. But it's a very strange place that we're in. And by the way, if you look at what's happening, none of this lasts, right? These guys are going to get the idea. They're talking about Mexico already, sending in special forces into Mexico.
Yeah.
What always happens, and this is the danger of having a tool that is so good, like U.S. Special Forces and the U.S. military, you keep using it. And then one day it goes wrong, and when it goes wrong Mogadishu style.
Yeah.
But my point being that these guys have now been emboldened. They think they won. Like, We're literally, by the way, halfway through the first batter in the first inning of what's going to happen in Venezuela.
No, it's very important
But
to
these
mention.
guys have already thought they won the World Series.
Right. It's really important to mention where we're at in terms of the timeline.
Right.
It's just the first 72 hours, and they're all crucial, and there's all kinds of horse trading and negotiation and power vacuums, and we know what that creates. You know, it'd be one thing, I guess, in history, you could talk about this. I can't really, but knocking off a foreign leader whose entire country hates him is not as controversial. So Saddam or Gaddafi, but or the majority of the people hate him. They always have some power center, right? And that's the case in Venezuela. Like the vast majority of people really do not like and have not liked Maduro for several years. He stole an election, poverty rates skyrocketing, people leaving if they can, and so on. But that doesn't mean that when you knock him off, that whatever comes next is going to be better, not only for the Venezuelan people in this case, but for American interests even, much less Latin American interests, much less the oil industries. Like, it's not necessarily guaranteed to be better, and obviously it's never our place to do it. But
I mean, Pete, it's almost guaranteed to be worse. Because the CIA did a deep study years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, about the effects of attempting regime change in Venezuela. And they were like looking at how, you know, Venezuela is a ramshackle version, a more disorganized ramshackle version of Russia, in the sense that there's organized crime controls a chunk of it. The Chavistas control a chunk of it. There's other groups that control chunks of it. And they all sort of operate in this uneasy sort of everyone gets their piece and they leave each other alone kind of setup. The regular people are just the ones who lose, is how it works. Well, if you knock out the Chavistas, right, the various components of that movement, if you knock all the senior ones out, are going to fight each other for control of things. They have a lot of guns, and they're highly organized. They're not organized to stop an American air raid. They're great for civil unrest, for controlling a neighborhood, or frankly for, you know, shooting Marines who are trying to occupy Caracas. There's tons of people, lots of guns, and there's no, like, when this falls apart, it's not like you and I are going to be saying, yay, this is awesome, Trump lost this bet. It's going to be more penury, more violence, more savagery in Venezuela, right? I mean, it's going to be terrible, and then the U.S. will be responsible for it, will be weakened even more for it. I mean, right now what's happening, countries in South America are saying, okay, I guess we have to get closer to China now. Like, we have to get closer to China because the Americans are untrustworthy and are intervening like it's 1952.
Right.
And that's what's going to happen. It's not, there's no, you know, what is the imagined great turnaround here? We've already told the actual Democrats in Venezuela they're out. So Trump's vision is to have the Chavistas still run the country. And I guess at best, what do? They give us part of the oil. There's no good outcome to this. We just become the dictator. That's it.
A lot of people are making the point that this signals to China and Russia for their expansionist ambitions. Do you think that's it's a pretty conventional wisdom point, I guess?
Well, it's not what it signals to them, because Putin's a scumbag and he's already doing it. China, I think, is, generally speaking, Xi acts deliberately. But China is building up its capabilities to take Taiwan in case it ever chooses to do it, which, by the way, would be a blockade. Sound familiar? What we're talking about with Venezuela. You know, they would try to coerce Taiwan with a blockade. That's how they would do it. What China is seeing happen here is not encouragement to do what it already sort of wants to do in Taiwan. It's seeing the United States do things that drive our allies away from us, so that if it's a fight over Taiwan, it's just going to be the U.S. and just China. And other allies will step aside and say, well, sorry, you just did this to Venezuela. Maybe we don't want to risk our national existence over somebody who's not all that different from China in the first place. So that's the danger. The danger, you know, American power, as I say all the time when you and I talk, is based on alliance systems. We provide support. Other countries do generally what we want them to do. Trump is just shredding that. And so when we have a big fight with someone like China, maybe we're just doing it on our own at that point. And that would be a horrendously bad thing, even if we won, because it would be that much harder to win and it would be that much more costly.
Let's talk about domestic politics and how this plays out and what, if anything, Democrats can do. I think I can play this. This is Seth Moulton. You told me to grab this. He was on CNN, and he's Democratic. He's a House Democrat. Here it is.
Now going to be administering a country of 30 million people, Venezuela. You just heard that hour-long press conference. So let's just go with what's your reaction here?
I mean, is anyone going to just stop for a second and be honest? This is insane. What the hell are we doing? I mean, we've got a lot of problems in America today, and invading, occupying, running Venezuela does not solve any of them. This is illegal. It's unjustified. It is not in our national interests. And there seems to be no plan whatsoever for what happens next.
All right, that's Congressman Seth Moulton. What do you think of that response, and what else will we hear? What do you think we should hear from Democrats? What, if anything, can they do on this?
So what Moulton is getting at is something. I'm looking at some polling numbers in front of me. Only 16% support U.S. boots on the ground in Venezuela. Only 18% support military force to overthrow Maduro. Only a third supported troops to remove Maduro. So where we are right now is only 1/3 of the country at best thinks it's good what we just did. And any further action they take to get us in deeper, you end up with 4 out of 5 Americans saying this sucks. No. This is before anything's gone wrong, by the way. So the politics of this are gigantically toxic for the Trump administration. This goes like the Epstein files. This goes right at a weakness he has with his own base. And this is the sort of thing that kills a movement. It kills a coalition because people start to go, whoa. I literally thought this guy ran ads saying we're not going to get involved in any wars, and now he's doing it. And he's talking about Mexico and Greenland and everywhere else. This is not popular. It is not at all popular. And I think it's kind of a big deal that our media right now, what I've seen of it, is generally sort of treating this like it's not as big a deal or not as unpopular as it is. They seem to be kind of holding their water on how unpopular it is. We know it's unpopular.
I've seen that a little bit.
They're not saying that.
I've seen that a little bit too. And while I haven't seen this narrative play out, I have seen some version of it already, which is this is not a war. This is not an occupation. This is literally they sent in the police. DEA went in with special forces. So it was like a joint DOJ Defense Department operation. And so American law enforcement officials went in because there was an indictment for this guy.
Right.
One of the charges, by the way, was that he had a machine gun. So that's kind of
the
ironic.
1934 law, as Representative Thomas Massey pointed that out.
Oh, interesting. So they will argue that this is a police action. This was going in and getting a criminal. This is not a war. It's not an invasion or an occupation, although the next day their dear leaders said, yeah, we own it. We're running it now. It's ours.
Yeah, I mean, that politically is
the argument will be the argument to a certain extent. I'm sure we'll see from MAGA. The convincing argument to them is this is not a forever war. This is us kicking ass around our hemisphere, and that's good because we are ass kickers.
I mean, you'll get certain people who say that. Sure, I've heard it from some folks. The problem for the Trump people is going to be 6 months when this is still a running sore. That's going to be a different case,
right?
Right? I mean, it.
Will it be?
We're literally
it doesn't seem like Iran was a running sore. We bombed the shit out of them, and that seems to have gone away.
But again, Iran is not.
In 2020 or whatever, at the beginning of Trump won, he assassinated an Iranian general. That seemed to go away.
Except that Iran is not across the Caribbean Ocean. It's not near Florida. There's not tons of Iranians in the U.S. living in Miami. There's not this is a much closer thing to home. And again, this Trump never said we're going to run Iran and put troops in. And the second Trump had stuck to this was a police action, Trump should have been saying what you just said. This is a police action. We got this bad guy.
I mean, that's what Rubio said, and it is what the rest of the administration is basically going to say.
But you know what? MAGA doesn't listen to the rest of the administration. America doesn't hear what Rubio says. They hear what Trump says. Trump said, we're going to run this country, and if we have to put boots on the ground, that's what we're doing. That is political suicide. It's unbelievable. And his problem is that he can't really win this. He can't. Because what's going to happen 3 months from now?
You get rid of the guy that's preventing international petroleum investment.
But that's not true.
You bring in those companies. They do business. They're our puppet. We've been doing this kind of client state work all over the world forever. This is the argument that the banana companies made when they got the U.S. to invade Central America. It's the exact argument again. And again, this won't work. It's the wrong kind of crude. The market, oil is too cheap to make it worth it. And who trusts Trump? If you're an oil company and someone says, hey, we need $5 billion from you and you can have all the crude you want from Venezuela. What oil company executive? These are not stupid people. A lot of companies make deals with him around the world.
They do not. They're not going to put $5 billion into a
Arab
country.
States had made deals with him. Why wouldn't it?
Yeah, but they're not going to put $5 billion into a country where their investment could go up in smoke tomorrow. They know Trump never follows.
I think they're on their way there right now.
You're going to get some executive from somebody there. Let's see if they put any money in. I would bet you that in the end, they'll make big announcements. The game that everybody plays here is to try to make Trump feel good.
Right.
But Exxon will say, we're putting in $20 billion. We're doing it next week. And then it never really will happen. And by the way, it's literally cost prohibitive to do this. This is very expensive. I've talked to people. I have a very good friend who is in the oil and gas industry. And you can go online. There's Reddits on this that you can go find. This is very expensive oil to refine. It's sour, very sulfur-heavy oil. It's why, by the way, the Maduro regime was fairly stable. Nobody was investing before this. So, the proof is not in what people say; it's in what they do. We will see.
One final point I just want to throw out to you is a lot of people are saying, including people like Tom Hartman, I mentioned it. Lots of people are saying there's got to be some truth to a wag the dog argument that every president in America and everywhere else, when they are domestically losing, their approval rating plummeting, they do a invasion of some sort, low scale bombing, missile strikes. In this case, snatch a foreign leader with special forces from his home. How much credence do you give to that? Is it worth even talking about that this was a distraction from the Epstein trials or the Jack Smith testimony coming out?
I don't think it matters because I don't think Trump thinks that way in the first place.
Well, it's not a Rubio. Rubio doesn't think that way. Rubio wanted this. This is a Rubio op.
Rubio wanted this for a long time, right? A. B. Trump just, a lot of the things we're seeing that Trump does have no political utility for him. If this is a wag the dog moment, he's doing the worst possible wag the dog. MAGA doesn't want it. Regular Americans don't want it. You don't wag the dog and, if you really wanted to get away from the Epstein trials, I don't know, nuke London. No one will talk about it for weeks, right? But it doesn't help you. And this is sort of in that mode. Like I think people overthink how much Trump thinks in the first place.
Yeah. Yes, they do. And the analysis. There's been so much analysis of his thinking I've seen in the last 24 hours, and it's like that's they're wasting their time.
Yeah, he's a fucking idiot, and that's it. He's a narcissist. He is trying to fill a lot of times gigantic chasm in his soul.
A lot of times,
running around and doing things,
thinking for him and competing to get in front of him to share their harebrained, awful idea, and then he's like, "Yeah, go ahead and do it, Stephen Miller. Go do it. Go name him. Yeah. Go rename the Kennedy Center after me. That's a great idea." That was probably his idea, but it must have been. But regardless, it's not really a lot of forethought, especially in the Kennedy Center. Like that place is now losing so much money and distinction. I mean, you could speak to it. It's in your town, but I mean, it's not looking good, that move for
everybody I know who would have gone for various events, Christmas, New Year's, whatever, to the Kennedy Center. they've all canceled.
Somebody
Nobody's
wrote
done.
a joke on social media. Trump can't run Venezuela. He can't run the Kennedy Center.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I mean, it's just but again, it's best to treat Trump like he is a political hurricane.
Yeah.
You don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
You just got to predict as best you can what's going to happen. But in the end, this is one man's gigantically insane, narcissistic ego bouncing around. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what happens after him. He doesn't care about anything except just being aggrandized from day to day. And that's it. And I think that if you try to find a big strategy or try to find some, sharp political move, his sharp political move is to not really care about the politics at all. Most people, even Vance, would be going, well, wait a minute, we need to win another election. The party needs this, et cetera. This is personalized autocratic rule in a sort of damaged democracy. And we're in the autumn of the patriarch, not to steal a South American novel's name for what's happening right now. Little Marquez there for the kids who read a lot.
I don't know Marquez. So
it's magical realism, which is a great way to describe how Trump sees that.
What will you be looking for over the next few days and weeks around this issue? Who are you watching, reading? And again, how does this play out domestically, politically in the days when everybody starts focusing back in a bit? So
I'm ignoring all the mainstream pundits completely because none of them are Venezuela specialists. And I would recommend
I got a Venezuela specialist on the show tomorrow from NYU.
Oh, see, that's why we love you, because you actually do that.
Vasquez.
And so I'm ignoring all the mainstream people. I'm going and finding people recommended by smart people to talk about it. I have friends that are in the pundit business on Venezuela, so I'm reading what they're saying. But what I would look at, what I would really watch is there's the justice minister of Venezuela, a guy named Cabello. And Cabello is the real muscle behind who's left of the Chavistas in charge. There are rumors that the Trump administration is courting him like crazy. And this guy is total shit. He's terrible.
Well, but
the Trump people see him as a potential strongman, and they're really working on him. They would keep Rodriguez as the figurehead, and Cabello would actually run things. Now, Cabello, interestingly enough, was also indicted with Maduro, and he was not picked up.
Oh.
Which I would suggest was Cabello probably set Maduro up to sort of redirect the wrath of the United States.
Well, somebody was apparently the CIA or.
Yeah, I mean, this is not, these guys are not.
They had someone very close to him at all times.
That's right. These are not the Ukrainians. Like these are not highly capable people in that respect. Watch Cabello and see what Cabello does. If he starts making deals with the United States or starts saying, well, maybe we need to work with the U.S., that means that the corrupt bargain has been made and Trump will have his, it's very much like it'll be like 1950s Havana if they make some sort of deal where Americans will go down there and invest money on Venezuelan beaches and Venezuelans will just get ground deeper into the dirt by some of the worst people in the world.
I'll talk to Professor Alejandro Velasco tomorrow. He's
awesome.
a PhD in Latin American history, and he was at Duke. He's at NYU. He's a big deal. He's written books about Venezuela, and I think we should all be paying attention to Venezuelan journalists. But even then, trying to figure out where their biases are or where their credibility lies is always important. But we should be learning about the countries who we invade and take their president, no matter how bad.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the average American's approach, is to find out about who we invaded.
It's also like a whole thing culturally in Latin America to see America, the United States, as an invader, occupier, interference.
I mean, it is a fair read of what we've actually done to them.
Yeah, I mean, in how many countries? Through Central and South America. Yeah.
So, I was going to look that up before this call, and then I did not get to it. But I mean, that would be an interesting number to see. It's dozens for certain. It's dozens, absolutely. And we have just added one ignominious coda to that list.
Yeah. Well, it's like many things can be true. You can be happy that Maduro's gone, But you could be
Sure,
pretty concerned.
he sucks.
Pretty concerned about.
Here's the thing: he's not actually gone. The system that he inherited is still there.
Yeah.
They're still, by the way, there's a ton of AI videos out there showing Venezuelans weeping on the streets, happy that this happened. Most of them are fake. There's a ton of fake videos out there. I've been looking at actual Venezuelan people. The streets are empty, and guess who's on the streets? Armed regime troops everywhere. The only things open in Venezuela right now are grocery stores and pharmacies, and there are government troops on the streets with guns all over Caracas. So Maduro is gone, but Maduro didn't create that system. It didn't depend on him. Chavez did.
Right.
So this is now, the Chavistas are still totally in power, and the only thing that's changed is that the U.S., this administration, might just figure out some way they can squeeze money out of them.
Bill, thanks for joining me tonight. Appreciate your insights on all of it. And that is it. That's all I had with Bill last night. Go support him on Blue Sky. Read more there. Bill B. in D.C. Love it. Learn more on the show notes. And now it's time to get to Canada's Dean Blundell, who I learned about from our friend Carlo in Canada. Dean's a media guy, a content creator, a Canadian raconteur, muckraker. You should follow him at his Substack, which is really blown up. DeanBlundell.substack.
God, I love you. I am just so impressed you finally joined Substack. I didn't know you joined Substack till you said, hey, let's go live on Substack. And I'm like, oh my God, he's on Substack. So now we're live on Substack. And I went and checked out your channel today. And it's really fucking good. You're a comedian, you're really good. You've got great guests. You know, you're going to get with it. But folks, if you're watching this on my channel over at deanblundell.substack.com, Pete Dominick, Stand Up with Pete Dominick. He's not just a stand-up guy. He is in our virtue wheelhouse. He's in our values wheelhouse. He loves the same things you do. Smart guy, interviews experts, comedians, brings you the goods, doesn't lie, not full of shit. This is a guy you need to follow right now. Hit the chyron at the top. Follow Pete Dominick.
Wow.
Stand Up with Pete Dominick. There you go. I just wanted to get that out of the way.
Wow, that is quite a thoughtful and generous endorsement. But this is an Arby's.
Oh.
So what is your order, sir? That's very nice of you. I wasn't sure if we had gone live or not on Substack. I'm so new to it. I'm trying to figure out how to go live on all of the platforms, and all of my platforms combined add up to like one George Santos or something. But I'm still, my numbers, my live viewing numbers are, it depends who I'm talking to and how it works and if I get it technically and what time of day and all the things. I have no idea what I'm doing, but they're still in the, I'm not quite to Nick Fuentes live yet.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. But anyway,
that's a good thing. That's good because then you'd be in charge of a Groyper army. And that's not something you want on your resume.
What do you make of him and this other dude who seems like a disciple of his, Nick Shirley, this guy who's like a right-wing provocateur, this guy who thinks he uncovered something that like the local news people had already done a watch live at 5 kind of ridiculousness.
Are you talking about the Minnesota Somali thing, Nick Shirley?
The daycare thing, daycare things they're pinning it on. They're trying to pin everything they can on Somalis. Doesn't matter. There's a crack in the sidewalk, Somalis. So these guys, Fuentes and Shirley specifically, I want to ask you, they're bragging about never having been with a woman. And I don't want to shame a man if he's not been with a woman, but it feels like it's a weird thing to admit if you're trying to attract a following of young men. But what do you think? Why are they doing that? Why are they saying that?
Yeah, great. You know, there's an authenticity that lives inside of that loser village that.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, I know. There's an authenticity that lives inside of Loserville, which is known as Groyper Town incels, that is valued by those losers more than gold itself. And I can't figure it out. I'm going to deal with Nick Fuentes first. I want your thoughts on him, not just the values that he and I don't share because he's a self-avowed, hate-filled, racist Nazi incel, and he admits it. I'm an incel. I've never been with a woman. I don't like girls. I don't want them to like me. I think they're mean. And then, a couple days ago, we'll get to the Nick Shirley thing because he echoed the same sentiments, and I'll get into a little bit of his background. But the problem that I have with Nick Fuentes is he's such a fucking unbelievable communicator.
Yeah.
And he attaches nuggets of truth to just pure fucking Hitler-loving incel hatred.
Yeah, he's very charismatic, educated, and he is able to come up with things, most of which are pretty unoriginal, but the way he packages them that defend his argument to the weak-minded, uneducated, ignorant, apathetic, malleable young people like himself overwhelmingly. And it's very effective. And I agree with you. I watched that clip of Shane Gillis and Joe Rogan talking about this, and I agreed with them. He can be funny. But we have to make sure that two things are true. I've been thinking a lot about, obviously, anti-Semitism because of the spikes in it, because of what happened, obviously, recently in Australia, because of all of my friends who are Jewish, because I'm reading Viktor Frankl's The Search for the Meaning of Life.
Man's Search for Meaning.
Search for Meaning, excuse me. And I just read that over Christmas. Again, if I ever read it. I just watched Nuremberg, and I've gone down this like Nazi Third Reich, if I'm being honest. I'm always on that YouTube rabbit hole and those history segments about them. Understanding that ideology is really important. Never forgetting is really important. And making sure that we always remind people, while we're talking about Nick Fuentes, he's a Nazi, and Nazis are bad, and I hate Nazis. So now that is caveated, we agree. He's a great communicator, but what is he doing? I think the question is, how is he fracturing the MAGA movement? They're going from Trump and MAGA to America First, I think. That's what their branding is.
Yeah, but to understand MAGA, you kind of have to understand the microcosms of MAGA, Pete, which is like, listen, when Hillary Clinton called them a basket of deplorables, she wasn't fucking kidding. This is like 7-8 years ago, where she's like, it's a fucking basket of losers and deplorables. He's just collecting the world's biggest assholes, victims, Nazis, criminals, Proud Boys, racists. That's all he's doing. Everybody's like, fuck, how dare you? Well, fast forward 10 years later, that basket of deplorables has different ideas about what Donald Trump promised them and what they didn't. So a guy like Nick Fuentes, who's in the extreme right basket of racist Nazi deplorables, incels, never been with a woman, likes to brag about it for some fucking unknown reason, which will never get him chicks if indeed one day he decides he wants to pull a reverse Milo Yiannopoulos, then that's a different story. However, the issue that we have now is that Donald Trump has pissed off the most intense racists and Nazis, because some of those racists and Nazis he's promised something to, and he has not delivered those things to them. And that was America First. They wanted a purely nationalistic white America. The patriarchy gets served, the men get served, and you deal with America First. And the problem that they have is those America First people, those Nazis, those incels, well, they don't like Jewish people. Right? They hate Jewish people. They don't like Jews. They hate Netanyahu. I don't like Netanyahu, but I think he misrepresents the entire country. Not a time for me to go off on my soapbox to find nuance about Netanyahu versus Israel versus Gaza.
Yeah.
But to that point, is that Donald Trump is doing more business with foreign countries. He's taking advantage and grifting with foreign countries, and he's selling, green cards and Trump cards for $5 million to any person of any color to bring them into the United States. Meanwhile, he's not getting rid of people fast enough, and he's not showing those videos of those detainments enough. And so it's really pissed off the psychos. And the psychos, believe it or not, include people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. And the reason why Nick Fuentes is such a serious fucking problem for Donald Trump right now is because leopards fucking eat faces.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
I mean, he has courted a leopard. He's brought it into the fucking zoo. He's let it free. And now the problem that he has, which is on top of that leopard eating problem that he has, is that his administration is full of fucking groypers. Right? Paul Ingracia, Groyper. The guy that's leading the Gardner, that's leading the podcast and Gardner, former bag boy, that's leading counterterrorism, the 22-year-old, no word of a lie, Groyper. Like there are tons of those. I know it gets even more disgusting, doesn't it? There are tons of those people that are currently in his regime that are not fans of Donald Trump because what Donald Trump didn't give to them, didn't offer to them, didn't deliver for them. So that's part of the issue. Nick Shirley's a different issue. Nick Shirley's just...
Yeah, let's talk about. I want to say I didn't realize how read in you were on this guy. I'm just kind of figuring it out, but just one comment to add about the Groyper movement. Unpacking it, we could do it for hours and so on. I just want to make one specific comment about it, which is they also really hate women. I think Nick Fuentes is gay. I think a lot of my gay friends and gay people in the kind of gay culture that gossip and talk, they all think he's gay, like him and Travolta. Anyway, I just think that allegedly, it's worth mentioning their hatred for women. We're all sexist. We're somewhere in a spectrum, but I thought that we drew the line mostly at like assault and harassment when people can unfortunately disagree too much on what that is, but definitely on voting. Like they don't want women to vote. And women there's always been women who would uphold patriarchy and hold other women back. That's always going to be the case, but it's always, it's worth mentioning. I know we're two guys talking about it, but I think it's important that two guys talk about it. The misogyny and the hatred for women is what I'll call it. The hatred and resentment for women that these guys all seem to have. That's part of why they don't.
Go ahead.
Probably why they don't have any sex or kiss girls and so because they also it's hard sometimes to get a woman to kiss you if you hate women.
You think you see the movie or the TV show Adolescence on Netflix? You ever see that?
Yes.
These are all products of those environments, right?
I think so. Yeah, the internet and the rabbit holes that you fall down with other men like you, and you get very resentful of women who turn you down or reject you.
Yeah. Yeah, and these guys are all people that, whose parents, probably Nick Fuentes' mother, I'm guessing, probably took his temperature rectally and gave him sponge baths until his late teens, probably breastfed him until he was 10, that kind of stuff.
That's not a lot different. That's not a lot different than my life, by the way. I just want to be clear, but we don't all end up that way. By the way,
it's super different than mine.
The rejection that they feel, we felt it. Every generation of boys and men felt it. We called it getting I think we called it getting friend zoned. Like when I liked a girl, which happened over and over in my case in high school, and they didn't like me, I was so disappointed, maybe heartbroken, maybe I cried, maybe I was depressed for a while. I felt rejected. I felt bad, but it was like, I wasn't mad at them. I got it. I look like a small boy with a giant head. I mean, I understood. I was friendly and funny and fun, but I got it.
Yeah. And you bring up some good points. Is that, there's a victim class, and it's funny because I said this to a buddy of mine the other day. We were talking about his kid. His kid's like 17 years old, blames women for failure. Then doesn't think women should vote. Like he's, he's talking about he has kids at incel, right? Like he's literally. I want to talk to one of these. We should bring on one of these guys and cover their identity to protect them.
I don't think any of them worth their own vulnerability, whatever. Other than Nick Fuentes and guys like Nick Shirley, who said the same thing the other day. Nick Shirley, he was being interviewed by some guy on Turning Point. And he's like, none of these guys can get me. I don't do drugs. Yeah. I don't drink alcohol. I don't have sex. I've never been with a woman. And I'm like, holy fuck, that is not bragging, dude. What you're doing is basing yourself. But, but you can see it. You can see it in each one of these fucking losers, right? And I say that, and then there's a problem with young men who feel like, the world has been taken away from them. But I'll tell you who's been singing that song for a long period of time. It's Donald Trump. It's MAGA. It's conservatism. It's the patriarchy. It's the church that's telling everybody, we need to hold your place in line. We need to put you at the front of the line. You, young white men whose migrants are stealing from you. They're taking everything from you, which is why guys like Nick Fuentes is all in to getting rid of every person who's not of the same color, every person who's Jewish out of his fucking country, because then white people in this country that was founded by God and founded by white people, according to Nick Fuentes, which is total bullshit, can be given back to the people in this country, the patriarchy and the white guy. And there's a certain segment of society, and that demographics, men, usually kids between the ages of 14 to about 36, believe it or not. It's a solid 22-year swing, who have bought that lie, hook, line, and sinker, that migrants are stealing your life, they're stealing your girls, and they're stealing your jobs, and they're stealing your place in line. Yeah, and now's the time to stand up for it militantly. And Nick Shirley, Nick Fuentes, the Posobiec's of the world, the Bennies of the world, they're all paid agents, but that's the lie they get paid to peddle to hundreds of millions of people. Yeah,
their grievance, they peddle a grievance that gets lapped up by young white men especially, and to me it's like, it's so, to a lot of us, it's so pathetic, the grievance that they're peddling. It's just
like small dick energy, I believe they call that. Little dick energy. It's like they've catered that message to the most fragile male ego.
I think that white men we struggle deeply. I've talked a lot about my struggle. I think it's important to say that, white men could be really poor, born into poverty, have all kinds of trauma that we overcome, all kinds of abuse, or that we don't. We kill ourselves at very high rates and so on. Don't get me wrong about the white man struggle. It's just, there's also another part of that, which is not understanding the type of struggle that so many other people have. That's certainly something I had to go through. And I've talked openly about the fact that when I lost my job and then my wife basically, wanted to separate, so my marriage ended, like I had no resilience because my life had been so good.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like, at that point, you go in different directions. But I could understand and have a perspective of how much harder it is for someone who has to deal with issues regarding characteristics that they were born with, the color of their skin, their gender, their sexual orientation. And I'm over here going, I lost my job. It's like, hold my beer, bro. And I could understand that perspective. I think it's important to understand that perspective. It's why, by the way, reading Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, is so, because he was in a fucking concentration camp, and I'm over here going, my wife doesn't want to be with me anymore, and I have to move out of my apartment. I'll miss my birds. I still eat potato skins and drink beer. Like, life is still, you know what I mean? Like, you also, you get to choose how you want to feel today is something I have written down in a couple different places. But what was I talking about? How did I get here? It was the idea that
you were talking about that victim mentality and the lack of resilience in that incel community, right? It's because a lot of those guys haven't had to struggle. And when they do struggle, it's funny. You said My Struggle, which is the name of Hitler's book in German, Mein Kampf. My struggle. It's the Jews. They're my struggle. It's other people are my struggle. What other people do to me is my struggle. This is going to sound terrible. I've read passages in Mein Kampf.
Yeah.
It is victim cover to fucking cover and blames everybody else for their sadness, for their lack of employment, for their standard of living. And by everybody else, I mean the Jews, which he calls Bolsheviks, and then he calls them Jews about 4,000 other times. And this is just a repeat of that struggle.
Right.
This is Mein Kampf 2025 with a whole bunch of fancy bells and whistles and marching bands and fucking young men like Nick Fuentes running around going, it's the Jews.
No, it's such a great...
guys like Nick Shirley running around going, it's the Somalis. Right. That's why we're all poor.
It's such a great point. Let me just try to repackage it, which is to say we all have our own struggles, but when we can, and we should identify them and we should get to the root of them, but they are being taught to blame and scapegoat and demagogue certain groups of people. And this has been something that's happened forever and ever. It's not like we're just coming upon this, but we do need to rename it and re-identify it for every generation, because sadly it happens every generation. It's no problem that you've read Mein Kampf passages, Dean. I do think you should be transparent with your followers. You also have a tattoo, but you say it's as a reminder of what not to do. Is that right?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. It's
Mein Kampf.
It really speaks to what we've talked about. This tattoo on my arm is in Latin. It says Amor Fati, which is love fate, embrace fate, and Memento Mori, which means you'll die. This is a Stoic passage, Stoic philosophy. I love it. And it touches on what you and I are talking about. And I know that, in our conversations, we've been chatting back and forth for a couple of years. We've both talked about the Stoic philosophy. That Stoic philosophy stands in direct contrast to MAGA. Stands in direct contrast.
Yes.
To Nick Fuentes, which is why I do what I do. A lot of people will say, "Hey, Dean, why do you, this is such a negative space to be in." And I'm like, because it is so abhorrent to every fiber and value in my fucking being.
That's right.
That I have to speak up. I have to talk about it. And what's important to me, the Amor Fati piece, which is respond well, which is embrace fate, all of it, and do what's in your best interest to overcome it. Because in that overcoming of your conflict, of your struggle, of what you're going through, you will find the tools to appreciate life and continue to overcome obstacles. The obstacle is the way. That is what we all know to be very true. If you know anything about Ryan Holiday, you know anything about Stoicism, you know anything about Marcus Aurelius, the impediment to action becomes the action. The obstacle becomes the way. And here's why. Because when you have tools to be able to deal with life's problems, struggles, and failures, life isn't a struggle. you're not a victim and you're not a failure. You continue to build these resilient conflict resolution tools. You then become proud of yourself because of the decisions and the actions you make that determine who you are. And all of MAGA is based on the opposite of that. Nick Fuentes, Nick Shirley, based on the opposite of that. Elon Musk is based in the opposite of that. And that is the struggle I have. I don't have a problem with rich fucking people. I would love to be a rich person. What I have a problem with are rich people who value that above humanity, acts for the common good, character, virtues, values, doing the right thing for the right thing because it'll make you a better person. And that's what MAGA, that's what Fuentes, that's what incels don't understand. They are the exact fucking bizarro world of my values.
Oh, man, I love it. I do have a problem with rich people, but putting that aside, talking about the importance of our beliefs, which is heavily based in Stoicism. You just shared your tattoo. I've been on this journey for a while now, and you and I have talked about different books, and people should, I think, study it. The point that you're making is such a good one that if you follow, for example, the 4 Stoic virtues, if you believe and practicing each virtue every day, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, it is the antithesis of MAGA. It's the antithesis. Wisdom, of course, meaning understanding the difference between good and bad. Like, I thought that was something that we all agreed growing up. Like, it's bad.
Wisdom's not a gimme, dude.
To calling people names, though, I thought calling people names, generally speaking, I felt like our teachers, generally, not all of them, were the arbiters of a kind of moral clarity. Our society agreed in public education and schools, like, they're not going to hit us, at least in my state. we had enlightened. We become more inclusive. We weren't bullying. There was a certain sense that you gain that wisdom and moral clarity. And the rest of the virtues, though, too, it's just antithetical to what MAGA believes, which, by the way, they're freaking out because yesterday Mamdani in his inauguration talked about collectivism versus individual rugged, which is like the least controversial thing in the world to me. But regardless, that, too, is grounded in Stoicism and all of these virtues. And I just think it's a really important point to make anytime we can, in any way we did, just the way you did, how opposite these two, polar opposite, these ways of life, these philosophies are. They don't have a philosophy, I guess, except for get my own and blame everybody for my problems.
Yeah, greed and lies. I mean, the philosophy of MAGA is everything for me and nothing for thee. The philosophy of MAGA is external value trumps all. Money, things that be taken away from you tomorrow, things that don't matter. Empathy doesn't matter to them. Wisdom doesn't matter to them. Clearly, we understand that, knowing Pete Hegseth's the fucking Secretary of Defense. Any decision that they make is short-sighted. It is never based in any value or virtue that I identify with. And I go back to the one sentiment that Marcus Aurelius talks about all the time in Meditations. If anybody's read Meditations, and you should read the Haynes version, the abridged version. Easy to understand. He talks about the only fruit in this life being good character.
Yes.
And acts for the common good. Well, What is good character? Good character is someone who displays empathy, love, kindness, courage when it's really difficult to display courage.
I'd settle for you just having the conversation. Just knowing what character is, we might disagree on what defines it, but let's argue. Let's have a thoughtful argument about what it means to be a good person, to have good character. I don't think that's something that there's an aspiration for in MAGA.
Quite the opposite. It's to present bad character as just another ideology, another option. Because there are a bunch of people out there that appreciate that bad character, that what is for me might not be for thee. That's how Trump is succeeding right now. That's why he is where he is. He has appealed to the terrible character of some of the most wealthy, powerful people in the world, some of the most angry, evil, violent organizations in America, to be able to scare people into or give him money or scare other donors into propping him up. What do you think the fucking Epstein files are for? The Epstein files are leverage. Right. And if you have character, if you have values, if you have virtues, and if you're leading a country and you find out, okay, let's just play this forward. You find out that people around you have been taking advantage of children, abusing and raping and trafficking children over a 30-year period, and you say you had nothing to do with it, and you want transparency for the victims, then you spend 7 months obfuscating, hiding, demeaning, name-calling the victims, the people trying to get transparency, blocking the process, hiding the process, and protecting other pedophiles. That is the opposite of good character. Good character in this situation would be if Donald Trump would call all of those women in there, sit around with the cameras, ask them about their experiences, and tell them he will never allow this to happen to them again. He's going to do everything he can to help victims of sexual violence, and he's going to do it immediately with an executive order. And he goes on a tangent for months, making sure Americans know their children are going to be safe in his America. That's good character. So if you want two real-time examples, there they are, with one person going two different directions. Donald Trump has the character of a fucking rapist and a serial killer because he is a rapist, and he might be a killer. And that is the problem I have with every single human being that goes, well, I voted for him because of my pocketbook. Oh, he's a rapist, and he's got the character of a serial killer. And you voted for that guy? Yeah. Well, you're getting exactly what you voted for now. That's the difference between character, good character, and bad character.
Regular or longtime listeners of mine know that I always quote this Australian general's phrase when he was trying to clamp down on sexual assault in the Australian military. It's an epidemic in every military. But he said, the standard you walk past is the standard you accept. So when I think about whether I think who's worse, the pedophile or the person protecting, obfuscating for the pedophile, I can argue the latter. I can argue the one is some mentally ill, deviant perversion, which motivates him, incentivizes him to assault children. It's any number of issues that we can. But the person who doesn't have that, who looks the other way and lets him keep doing that, that's looking past a standard. And that's the one of the worst crimes I can think of. I'm not only talking about that. I'm talking about things that aren't necessarily criminal, just bad behavior. Mm-hmm. But that is exactly what so many people have done. And regardless of their fucking political stripes, I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, conservative, or liberal. It's dudes doing it. It's men. So we're just talking about a certain kind of man.
Yeah, we're talking about the patriarchy. We're talking about a certain kind of individual that lacks values, that doesn't value human life, that looks at a woman like an asset, looks at her body like he can control it, looks at a black person like he shouldn't be on the level with him, looks at a migrant and thinks they don't deserve any opportunities. They need to go to the back of the fucking line. They look at handicapped people like they're a scourge. They look at trans people as if they're a sinful aberration. They look at gay people like they need conversion therapy. That's what I'm talking about. Someone who has complete disregard for the rest of humanity other than the humanity that lives inside the ideology that serves them and their community and their fucking pocketbook.
For folks that are watching on Substacks, they can't hear Dean, come over to YouTube. I put the link in. I think it's on my end. Like I said, I don't have this down pat, but I do want everybody here or
I don't even know if this is on my YouTube.
The conversation, because it's really good. I love talking to Dean, and I think that we're rolling right now and identifying some things that in such a way that help people understand and think about and relate to what's happening and what we're seeing in specific, kind of what is good character? What does it mean to be MAGA? What does it mean to be the rest of us? Let me, what else did you want to say about that Nick Shirley kid? And
a lot of this is performative. Like, you know,
followers.
The beautiful part about America, all of it is performative. The beautiful part about America is watching America stand up. I know there's two different aspects to America. There's MAG America, then there's America, right? There's MAG America. Oh, sorry, you still there?
Yep.
Hang on.
I'm here.
Oh, you gotcha? Okay, sorry. There's MAG America, then there's America. There are the hardcore MAGA fans, acolytes, cult members. Then there's, that's about, I would say, 20% of the 77 million people that voted for him. in the last election. And then you've got fucking everybody else, like literally everybody else. And the beautiful part of what I've watched go on in the United States over the past, I would say, 6 to 10 months is this run on the perception of the average American that seems to be coming to an end. And I can point to two specific examples. One of them is CBS and Barry Weiss taking over CBS on behalf of Trump and the Ellison Group. And how CBS announced yesterday in their evening news package, their new anchor was like, hey, you know what? We're done. We're done with talking to experts. We're done talking to academics and intellectuals.
So I just read that before we went on, and I don't know if you have the quote right in front of you, but the new CBS anchor who happens to be he's been there for a while. He's the husband of MSNBC's Katie Tur. What's his name? Something Greek or something, Dikolopoulos or whatever. He said, we're done like highlighting, I think, like elitists, like academics and my response was, show me where that was something that CBS or any other outlet got wrong. Like, what are you talking about? Like, was it wrong to talk to virologists about a virus? Like, what are you talking about? Like, who are you talking about? These experts and people that you think you should not have been depending on their analysis on something like, I don't know, climate science or any number of issues.
And it leans into what I'm kind of gonna. This is like, you know, a microcosm of the systemic issue with what MAGA has done to media in North America and really globally, right? Is they have the ability to get up underneath the floorboards of mainstream media with the Tim Pools, the Tenet Medias, the Bennys of the world, the Matt Walshes of the world, all the fucking worst people, the Tucker Carlsons of the world, the Elons, the Alex Jones, that had the biggest followings on the planet when it came to conspiracy theories. They all happen to be Trump aligned. And so they got fucking leveled digitally, click-wise. They destroyed mainstream media over the past 5 to 10 years, just destroyed it. And it didn't need any help getting destroyed because it destroyed itself. And mainstream media at that point in time, too, was already captured. You know that. I know that. It served at the pleasure of their executive relationships and their CEOs and board members. Every mainstream media company did and does, with the exception of NPR, CBC up here in Canada. We have the same problem. And so what happened was you watched all these derelict media brands being run by MAGA, whether it was Tenet Media, whether it was Turning Point USA, make so much more fucking money than mainstream media, that mainstream media and a couple of channels looked at Fox, looked at Murdoch, looked at all these derelict media channels, and they're like, we're going to go tits up and we're going to lose our shirts if we don't do something, and we have to follow that example. What is that example? It's to deliver information in a post-truth society intentionally. Now, why would they do that? And the reason why CBS is doing that is because CBS is now, what they said yesterday through their news anchor was, we're going to start getting more performative. We're not going to get to the issues. We're not going to talk to experts. We're not going to be progressive. We're not going to consult people that have the definitive bar of truth when it comes to any subject. What we're going to do is talk to other people. We're going to talk to you. You're going to be the experts. Now, why that is really important is because I want to point to Nick Shirley, like the Tucker Carlsons of the world. So they counted Nick Shirley. They used the Nick Shirley thing in one of their evening news packages. Nick Shirley was the guy that went to Ukraine 3 years ago, showed up in an abandoned foxhole, told the world there was no war there, and Ukraine was just stealing money from the United States. He was summarily kicked out of Ukraine after that, was found out to be paid by Russia for that piece, came back and magically was part of, if you remember this correctly, remember when Donald Trump, before tearing down the East Wing, had all of those content providers sitting with him talking about how dangerous the world was for right-wing journalists and you need to do something to get rid of Antifa? Well, Nick Shirley was at that table in the East Wing with guys like Nick Sartor, Tucker Carlson, Benny Johnson. But still, no one had really ever heard of Nick Shirley until the Republicans, House Republicans in Minnesota, got a phone call from Trump's team in Washington saying, we need you to send Nick Shirley to Somali-run daycares and somehow paint them as fraudulent, somehow paint them as empty, somehow paint them as a major concern and a reason why we need to deport Somalis. Now, why Somalis in Minnesota, you ask? Because about 4 days before that, Ilhan Omar, who's Somali, congresswoman from Minnesota, accused Donald Trump of being in the Epstein files. Then, here's the great part. Then Donald Trump cut off all funding for childcare for Minnesota. This is at the end of last week. And after that, it was found out that Nick Shirley was paid by the Republicans to do this. There was no fraud that he uncovered. In fact, he lied completely about every single daycare that he went to. And now Nick Shirley's on the run, telling everybody they can't get him because no one can find him. You're never going to get me because I'm a virgin. You're never going to find me because I'm the best at hiding. That is what MAGA is in a nutshell. And if it's up to Barry Weiss, if it's up to CBS, owned by Ellison, the biggest donor to Trump, the biggest donor to Netanyahu, it's up to them. Guys like Nick Shirley are going to be their senior fucking evening news correspondents from now on.
Yeah. Well, very, very interesting, that deep dive into this guy. I didn't know about the Ukraine stuff and that
yeah,
Russia was allegedly paying him. I want to look into all those claims and everything else.
Yeah, Callan Robertson, who does incredible work. He's a reporter over there. He's with Byline Times in England. He's literally confronted him about it. And I've had several conversations with him about it. And Nick Shirley is nothing more than a crisis actor, Church of Latter-day Saints, incel, virgin, MAGA loser.
I see him now. Callan Robertson confronted Nick Shirley about his lies in Ukraine. Yeah, no, and you brought it all the way back to CBS News and this. I mean, it's pretty true. We have to be vigilant. We have to check our own biases because anybody can go out with a camera. Everything's completely accessible. All the technology is accessible and all the platforms are easily accessible. It's not just a reporter who, has a team, who has an editor, who has lawyers that they have to answer to get things right. So if you are willing to believe whatever. I mean, progressives can do this too. I see a lot of progressive influencers and people like hyping shit up or exaggerating things or even saying things that obviously aren't true. And I hate that shit. I hate it because people should have some kind of, there should be a currency for your credibility and your reputation for who you are, and what you're reporting. But if you just have, you can go out and say, my goal is going to be to uncover these daycare centers. I'm just going to go on and say something. And then in this case, you've got a completely corrupt Republican Party that will just tout it. Elon Musk, who has spread more mis and disinformation, more lies, dishonesty, replacement theory bullshit than probably anybody with huge platforms. And it's very hard to combat that. How do we combat that? How do you pronounce combat? I pronounce it with the influence on the combat, not combat. I don't know why I'm saying it that way.
I don't know. I just think you feel really entitled right now.
The inflection makes me feel more entitled.
Combat.
How do we combat?
Very
How do we combat?
To combat this issue. How do we combat this issue, Peter? Great question. I'm not sure, but I do know, and I think a lot of us know, and it's a relentless pursuit of people that are telling these lies. It's a relentless pursuit by independent media, the support of independent media. It was funny because I get a lot of these, since coming to Substack about 10 months ago. I've been inundated with people after we post something, after we have a conversation like this, where they'll go, I had no idea. We take a lot of this shit for granted, all right? But there are so many good people that have tuned out, not interested, don't want to talk about it. I just need to go to my 9 to 5. I got to put some bread and butter on the table. Got to take my family for a camping trip in the summer. Got to get through work. I got to pay for my kids' braces. I just don't have the emotional or mental or intellectual currency to deal with that. Now, what I've seen, and I would ask you this question, because what I've started to see is the undressing of those narratives to be pure pathological bullshit that we all know it is. I've started to see people in MAGA go, hey, listen, while I do support certain aspects, this guy has been lying to me for the last 8 years, and I'm just catching on to it. I've started to see videos of guys go, hey, listen, I bought all the merch.
Yeah.
I gave you all my money, donated $10,000 at this rally. You fucking lied to us. My health insurance premiums just went. So Donald Trump is going to do it himself, but it's It's the furtherance of these stories of people who bought and sold everything on behalf of Donald Trump only to find themselves literally with their pockets fucking empty and their daughter knocked up in the fucking next bedroom. Right? Like, that's legitimately the only way we're going to get on top of this is by everybody who's been pissed off by this guy, everybody who's been shafted by this guy, and everybody who's never bought into it, deciding we're not going to ride for that ideology anymore. We want to ride for affordability.
Yeah.
We want to ride for Medicaid. We want to ride for policies that include our neighbors. We're tired of watching videos of ICE agents and Trump's Gestapo beating the shit out of our fucking neighbors. That's enough. And I'm starting to feel that tide turn.
Oh, it's turning.
I'm starting to see it. Are you?
Oh, yeah. Greg Sargent has a great piece in the New Republic specifically about how the immigration raids are failing by every metric set out by the administration, much less by any other. It doesn't mean it's not still scary and horrific. I'm not downplaying what they're doing, but the court has started, the Supreme Court, which he, basically worked for him. He appointed half of them, has started to turn against him on that issue, potentially on the tariffs issue. Republicans see the writing on the wall, and they are abandoning the party itself. Electeds are stepping down, resigning, especially in the House. And so, no, we are seeing all kinds of cracks and failures, and Democrats winning in special elections all over the country or coming close in places they should not. So the tide has certainly turned in our stupid fucking country. And I say that because it should have turned away from Republicans after 2000 when they cheated to win that election. It should have turned away from them after 9/11, after Iraq, after the financial crisis, after every fucking Republican policy which was advocated for and by the super wealthy. It should have always turned against them when Republicans don't hold their own, or this country doesn't hold Republicans like Merrick Garland and the Biden administration accountable. Accountability matters, but it doesn't turn. And so we go back and forth. But right now, there's certainly a line that has been crossed by this insane person who more people in the world all had the same wish on New Year's Eve than ever before about. And so this year looks good. I think we're going to be fine.
Yeah. I think this year is going to be a struggle, but I also think this is going to be unmasking of Donald Trump. I hate New Year's predictions unless they have a strategy.
Yeah.
And I think that, I watched Zoran Mamdani get inaugurated.
Yeah, I watched his whole speech. I actually got emotional.
Yeah. And I did too. Because I didn't get it at first. And let me explain.
You didn't get the speech, or you didn't get him or the campaign?
Let me explain. Our minds over the past, I'm 52, you're 50, over the past 50 years, and you could say 100 years, have literally been poisoned with the idea that you got to support one or the other. You got to support, in Canada, liberals or the conservatives. In the United States, you're a Democrat or you're a Republican. That becomes your identity. That becomes your rallying cry. That becomes your army, right? That's who you are. Watching Zoran Mamdani tell both institutions to go fuck their hats, then to listen to his speech yesterday, saying he is going to audaciously govern for the people, with the people.
Yeah.
And the people have never had someone like him as leverage to make sure that happens, because that is his commitment.
Yeah.
He calls himself a democratic socialist. I don't care what he calls himself.
Yeah.
What I saw there, you can identify however you want, Zoran Mamdani. What I saw there was that wall sort of tumbling down around the political institutions that have been ingrained and branded into our brains as necessary in our lives, and the support that we have to give them, or else the other guys are going to win and our lives are going to be miserable. Mamdani didn't say any of that. He didn't say any of that in any of his fucking bullshit. What he said was, I'm going to see if I can fucking build some free grocery stores for the poor. I'm going to make housing and insurance in this country, in this city.
Yeah, childcare and public transportation.
Childcare, free transportation.
All things that are...
He took his oath in the fucking subway.
All things that are wildly, wildly popular around the world. And I always like to remind Americans that people live longer, happier lives in countries with a lot less wealth than ours. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm no brilliant political philosopher or on anything, but if you like life and you want to keep living it with maybe less pain and discomfort and stress, then I would say you want to live a longer, happier life. Do you want to live a long, happy life? Yeah. You liberal, you conservative. No, everybody wants to live a long, happy. Most people want to live a long, happy life. And if you want to live a short life, you still want it to be happy. Or whatever life you want to live, you want to be able to not have to fucking work all the time and into your 80s and every day and be worried about everything affecting you. Rest of the world, wealthy countries, longer, happier. How do you feel about longer, happier policies? I like longer, happier policies. You want to call it democratic socialist, whatever. Longer, happier.
Longer, happier party. That's what we're talking about. I'll end with this because I think that this is really important. Is that
move if you're happier over there, move. Okay. Some guy in the chat. You're back.
I'll go out and come back in.
No, you're here. You're here. I can hear you. You can't hear me? Oh, he's leaving. The idea of someone suggesting that you move to one of those countries. And this one. Okay, here we go. You're back.
How are we doing? Are we there?
You're back. I'm just like somebody was just telling me if I like it so much in those other places, why don't I move to them? I was like, I mean, I would, but I want to stay and fight. I want to make.
Dude, you can do Substack first, and then you can blow it out across all the other networks.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. You have to tell me how to do it.
I will. We'll hop on a call later. I want to say this before I let you go.
Yep.
There are 3 countries that rank consistently as the happiest countries in the world with the best standards of living in the world that also coincidentally are the most loved countries in the world. Do you know which countries those are?
I think they're mostly in Scandinavia, but I think like Denmark, Finland, and Norway.
Incorrect. Close though. Finland, Denmark, Canada. Now why? You ask. Great question. Sweden's there as well. Norway's there. Why is Canada there? Why is this country in the middle of the Western civilization, this capitalist pig civilization? Why are we the happiest? Why are we third, second, first every year? Because of what Pete just said. We pay a lot of money in taxes, right? Up to 40%. What we make, depending on how much money you make. If you're really rich, you know how to hide it. But generally speaking, people that make a decent buck pay about 40% in taxes. We have $10 daycare. We have free dental. We have free medical, which blows Pete Dominic's mind every time I talk to you about it. We have free dental. We have free prescriptions for people that need them. If you don't make any money, you can go get your teeth fixed for nothing in this country. Now, why does that matter? Because you know what comes with not being able to afford the basic necessities of life? Stress, anxiety. You know.
I know.
You remove all that anxiety and stress from a parent.
Specifically,
by the way, school is paid for in those Scandinavian countries. Your parents' retirement is fucking paid for in those countries. Your MBAs are paid for in those countries. You have no stress. Because your country is interested in doing what's right for the people. And what do you get with happy people? You get a productive country. What do you get when you get a productive country? You get unity. And that is why Canada is so much happier, even though we share the same landmass. That is why the life expectancy of a Canadian is 5 years more than the life expectancy of an American.
But even
these are facts.
Even that doesn't capture the happy. It's hard to measure happiness. It's hard to measure stress levels. And I'll let you go. But just the one why I reacted that way is because I've not struggled to eat. My kids haven't struggled to eat. But when I lost my corporate job, I lost my health insurance. And I wasn't worried about my health as much as I was, but I don't have any chronic issues. I'm fairly healthy, but I was worried about what if every day, what if something happened to my ex-wife or my daughters especially? That's a kind of stress that no parent, you shouldn't have to worry about whether or not your kids are going to be able to you're going to be able to afford to get your kids health care. And then guess what? My daughter gets diagnosed with pretty severe scoliosis and not life-threatening at all, but definitely life-changing and thousands of dollars that would have been covered. So it immediately happens because life happens. And so, yes, that is one measure of stress and one thing that you have to deal with. And one of the reasons I always love getting yours and everybody else's perspective that doesn't have to worry about that. Thank you for joining me, my friend. Always.
Pete, God, I love seeing you. Handsome, middle-aged gentleman, you.
Thank you. That's very kind. I'm also very attracted to you, and I'm very glad whenever we do this. We should do it more often. Thank you for everybody watching live. Sorry about the technical issues with Substack. Dean will help me. He'll hold my hand, and we'll figure it out. 2 old radio guys.
Yeah, call me when we're done. All
right, bud. Thank you.
Love you, baby.
Bye, everybody.
Soon.
And there it is, Dean Blundell. Follow him on Substack, deanblundell.substack.com. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. I know it was a lot. Hopefully you appreciated it. Those of you that listen to all of it, you are the greatest. You're the bumblebees. The greatest. Here, the goats of stand-up. So thank you very, very much. Can't do it without your support. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. And I will talk to you right here tomorrow and every day on Stand Up.
Oh, you better stand up. When you're tired of begging, saying pretty please, that's the time you gotta finally get up off of your knees. When you can't see the forest for the burning trees, you got to stand up. Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you got to stand up. Stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. We got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear and all you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up, we got to reach up, and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand